In modern JavaScript, there are two types of numbers, regular numbers and big numbers. The regular numbers are the numbers which we know already, and also there are the big numbers, or we can call them big integers. These big integers comes with a lot of zeros. So for example, I will have here that I can know that, for example, I have 1 billion, and then 1 billion will come with 90. This will be implementing a big integer. So for that, you can use big integer in JavaScript as well, and also normal integers, like which are less than, we can say, 1 billion. They are always normal or regular integers. But imagine if you want to write, for example, 1 billion. Okay, 1 billion comes with how many zeros? With 9 zeros. So I will have here 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. In this way, I will not understand how many zeros, or my eyes will not catch how many zeros I have here. So one way to define a big number is to separate them with underscore. So in that way, it will be kept as a number, but they are easier to read. So remember, if you see underscore in the number, that means it's not a string, but it's really staying as a number, and it's big number, or it can be regular number as well. So let's try this example and refresh our page, and we will see that we console log that number and the underscore are removed. So we have the 1 billion normally. So the handling of that variable in JavaScript will be taken as a normal number, even we had here underscore. But as a developer, it's easier for me to read that number now. There is another way to define a number, or define a number with multiple zeros. So for example, I will take this constant and I will give it, for example, different name. We can call it as well billion. And this billion, it will not be like this, but we can define it in a way like 1, and you put E, and this E define how many zeros behind or after the 1. So I will have here 1E and then 0, or for example, then it will be only 1. And if I want 1 billion, then I will put 9 zeros. So in that way, if we console log that number also, so I will put here const, we can console log const number billion, and also the normal const number which we had before. So we can see in the output 1 billion, 1 billion, and we will see the like the output in the console log. So when I refresh, as you see, I had here 1 billion as well. Let's put 6. So we will save and refresh again. And we will see that it's 1 million, like 6 zeros. You can put as well here, like for example, 5. And then 5E6, it means like I will have 5 million. So in that way, I can define a numbers. You can write the number normally without any separation like underscore, or you can write it like with separation to have like more friendly reading, and also you can write it in a short way like how we have here with the E. So also if we put, for example, here 5.7 or 5.5 and 6 zeros, what will happen in your opinion? I think it will be, for example, 5,500,000. Here I put 5.5 as a float number, like normally you remember we define the float numbers as it is. So you see here like 5.555. But if you put, for example, here 5.6 and then E, for example, I want 3 zeros. So I will have 5,600 because the 3 zeros, or it can say like this one is 5.6 multiplied by 1000. So in that way, I can say that this equal to multiplied by 1000. This operator is multiply. We will see it later. So now if I save, do it again, I will get the same result. So in this way, we can define the numbers in JavaScript. There is opposite way that I have to put, for example, like minus here. So if we put here like some minus after the e, then it will be in minus. Let's remove this 5.5, and I will have 5e minus 6. So when we refresh, let's try that, we will see that we went in the comma or in the float like under the 0. So in that way, you can define also better than saying I need number 0.00005. No, you can say it in this way, 5e minus 6, and you will get the same result. It's exactly the same way how you are dividing by 1000 in our example, or in 1 million. So in this case, I divide 5 by 1000, and in this way I will get 0.005. So this is how we are handling the numbers in JavaScript in this way. So you have always the optional way or the option to define your numbers as you want. You can declare them freely, like without any or of those separation, and also you can declare them like this. The floating numbers, as I told you before, we can define floating number easily. So we can say here floating. So the floating number, you can just define it 0.5, or even if you have like in a way, like for example 5.5, okay, I need to declare it. But if you have 0.5, you don't have to put the 0. So it's enough to have it like 0 or dot 5, and it will be defined as 0.5. But when I save here, Prettier plugin, which I talked about before, it's changing for me the format, and it's making and saying that no, it's better to declare it like this. Of course, we can change the configuration of Prettier, but we are not in that level now. We are just with the basics. We will see later how to configure our editor more efficient way. Like a calculator, you can as well do some operations on the numbers. So there are operators in JavaScript. Let's go back to our code. Let's organize it a little bit. So I will keep here the const number and also const number billion. We put like the console log after every assignment or after every variable. So in that way, we will be easier to change and read those values together. So in that way, I will put as well this one here. So we have console log for everything. So this number floating, we don't need it. So we have the variable and or the constant, and we are consoling log it. So now let's do some calculation. So for example, I need to have addition. So in that way, I can define a variable. I can say let, for example, x will equal to 5. And also we can have let y, it will be equal to 7. And also we can in that way add x to y. So in that way we have to say let z equal to 5 plus 7, or in that way you can say directly x plus y. So in that way it will be replaced by x the value 5, and by y it will be replaced the 7. So after that we can console log that value. So we can have here let z, and this z will be logged in here, and it will be the addition between x and y. So if we save, we get here 12, which is great. Also, you can have like directly operation on the numbers. So I can have here 5 plus 1, and then the result will be 13, because here I have 6 and the y have 7. So like 6 and 7 is 13. The same thing goes for multiplying. So I will have here, instead of plus, I can have here multiply, which is asterisk or a star. So you have a star here, then it's multiplication. So when I refresh, I will have here 42, because 6 multiplied by 7 is 42. So let's remove this plus 1 and try again, and we will have 35. So 7 multiplied or 5 multiplied by 7, I will have 35 of the value of z variable. As well, there is the subtraction. So subtracting x from y will give us also the result. So you just have to put minus instead of multiplying. If you try that and refresh, you will get minus 2 because 5 minus 7 is minus 2. And of course, if you put like here bigger number, so sorry, we can go here again. We put here 15 and then refresh, we will get 8 because 15 minus 7 is 8. As well, you have the dividing method. So you can as well here, instead of minus, you can have a dividing. So slash, it means dividing. When you have two type or two numbers, then it will give you the division between those two numbers. So z will have x divided by y. So in this way, I get this result because 15 divided to or by 7. There is also the modulus, so you can have here mod. So percent, it give you the result or the return, the division remainder. So in that way, I will say here like a refresh and then okay, 15 multiplied or module 7, it will be like 1. So in that way is the rest of the division. Okay, there is also another thing which is called incrementing. So I can increase x somehow without saying like 15 plus 1. There is some shortcut, it helps you to do that. So I will say here, let's console log all the numbers. Here I have here console log z, console log z as well. So here we'll have x and y and then z. Okay, when I say here x plus plus like 2 times and then semicolon, then x will be increased by 15, so increased by 1. So I will put here like when I save, try again. Okay, first is 16, so x console log is 16 because it's added here. So we have addition or plus plus. And also y is 7, it stayed the same, and z is the modular operation, which is 1. So in that way you can increase x, and the console log will follow the last changed value on the x. So in that way you will be able to see the result of the last change on that variable. Maybe now I can explain more the constant. So if I say not let, but I will say const. So x is a constant. Now if I refresh, I will get error, assignment to a constant variable on line 27. So here it's like I changed the value of x. So the value of the x is really changed. So in that way I cannot change it because it's constant. So in that way, always when you use these operators, you must use let. The same thing goes for minus minus. So I will have here minus minus and then the number will be decreased by 1. So 15 minus minus is 14. So in that way we have doing like some shortcut for increasing or decreasing the number. There is also the power. You know, in mathematics there is something called power. Let's define a variable, call it a, and this a will have for example 2 and then 2 multiplies 2 times, and I will put for example 3. So in this way I am saying that 2 is power 3. So 2 multiplied to 2 3 times. 2 multiplied to 2 multiplied to 2 again. So let's console log a. So we should get 8. So in that way we will see that it's acting like a power. So let's save. Okay, we have here 8. So it's like I said, multiply for me 2 3 times. So first 2 and second, and all of them multiplied 3 times. So we have here the same result, which is 8. So when you do the multiplication 2 times, it's called like a power. So I put here like 6 and then I will get 64. So 2 multiplied by itself 6 times. Okay, now I have a question for you. So I defined a variable b in this way. So I say 100 plus 50 multiplied by 3. So what will be the result? Is the result of the example above the same as 150 multiplied by 3 or 100 plus 150? So this is what we are calling operator precedence. So in this way, I can know which is stronger operator than the other. So let's try that and see the result. So when we refresh, I got 250. So the same thing of 150 plus 100. So in that way, I will know that multiplication is stronger than plus. The same thing, multiplication or division is stronger as well than plus. So this operation will be done first and then it will be done this one or plus with the 100. So to change this priority or this strength, we learned in mathematics that we can use parentheses. So when I put here one parenthesis around those operators, so I have here now 100 plus 50 will be stronger than multiplication. So let's try that. Refresh, I got 450. So 150 multiplied by 3. So in this way, I change the priority of the operators. So this is called in JavaScript or in mathematics precedence. When you take a variable which is defined as a number and then you put dot, then you will have some comments over that variable. So when I will say here, for example, b dot, then I will get as autocomplete from Visual Studio Code some methods. This square here or this cube shows as a method. So there are multiple methods for the numbers, and also there are methods for the strings and also for other types, as we will see later. But as long as we are in numbers section, I am going to talk about the numbers method now. So first of all, there is toFixed. toFixed is doing a rounding for the number. So when I have the number 2 or 0.9, then it will round it up and it will make it as 1. So let's try that. So I'm going to define a variable. So we can say here let, and we can give it a name C, and this C will have 0.9 as an example. So when I say another variable let D will be C dot toFixed. So in this way, I am assigning or giving a command to the C variable to be changed, but the variable will not be changed, but the result of that will be assigned to D. So like the C will stay as it is, it will not be changed, but toFixed it has a result, and this result will give me a string, and this string will have that D number, which will be 1. So when we console log this D, I will go here, take the console log, and I will console log it here. I will get 0.9 rounded up as a string, because you see here the output of method is string. We will talk about methods or parameters in more detail. So let's see that in our eyes. So when I refresh, I got here 1 in line 42. So this one is 1, and as you see, it's not violet, it's white. So it means this is a string, as we saw before. So toFixed rounded up the number and changed it to the type string. And as you see here, D is a string if I put the mouse over that variable. There is another method, let's discover it. So we can remove this toFixed and we try another one. It's called toExponential. So in this way, when I call that method, you have to put always this parenthesis. So you have to call that method. As we will see later, we are calling that command on the variable C. So when I save and go again here, you will see the result. It's 9 minus or E minus 1. So it's like multiplied 9 multiplied by 0.1. So in this way, I will get 0.9. We talked about that previously. There are, of course, another methods. We can see them, discover them, like, for example, to precision. We will talk about it later, and to string also, I'm going to talk about it later. But actually, it's converting the number to a string. This is the simplest answer about it. So when I have here c.toString, then d will have a string value of c. So we will have here c is, or d is 0.9. But if I console log the c number, so I have here c, and as you see here, we will have 0.9 in violet because it's number, and this like d got changed to a string, and it's also 0.9. So in that way, the output of this method is changing the variable which we are calling. As I told you before, we can also parse the numbers to strings, as we said here, or as we did here. So C got transferred to a string and assigned to the D variable, and it's printed here as a string. What if we want to do the opposite? So I want to change a number as a string to a number. So in way, like I can say this C is a number or a string, and I want to see it as a number. To do that, we have multiple ways. First, the global way. So I will go here, and instead of say c.toString, I want to see d as a number. So I can put here like capital letter number. It's a keyword in JavaScript, and then I open parentheses, and then I will say that the value which I want to change to a number. So I will put here either like the string, I put here any string like a number, or I can put the variable which I want to convert. Because the C variable hold the string number 0.9, then I can use it for this method. So I can say here number C. So let's save, and we will see that first logged is a string number and the second is the number. So when we save, we will see that the first one is string number, which is C, and the second number is D, which has a violet color, which is the number. So in this way, I defined or I converted that variable from string to a number. There are another ways also for parsing to a number. One of them, if you know the type or the value of C, for example, already, so here it's 0.9, so it's a float number. So you can say here, instead of like number, you can here say parse float. So in this way, I am parsing that number or changing that number using a string to a float. So in this way, we will get the same result, but it's changed also to number. Also, if I know that C is an integer number, like I will put here 10, then when I put, like for example, parse int, this is integer, like parse this string to int, then I will get it as integer. So if I have like, for example, 0.7, and I am using parse int, so the output of parse int will be number, integer number. It will not be like a float number. This is how the expectation. So I am using or parsing float string to integer. So let's try that, and we will see I got 10.7. This is the value of the C as a string, and then I got only 10 for the D. So in that way, it subtract all of this. 0.7 is subtracted from that string, and it gave me the result as a 10 only because I said part or parse int. So now if I have this as a parse int and I want to change it to parse float in that way, So I have here integer as a string, of course. I want to convert it as a float. So I will get float number. Let's refresh that and we will see that parse float kept it the same. So when you are always sure about the variable, like if it's float or number, then you can use the proper method for that. Otherwise, you can just use a number and it will help you to avoid parse float and parse string. Okay, now I am going to do parse float for C, but I will not here put a number. I will put something else, like let's put a string. I will put, for example, apple. Okay, and in this way, when I print that, let's see what is the result. I got something none. So D got some result from parse float as none, not a number. This is what we will talk about in the next lecture. So we saw in the previous lecture how we got none, like not a number. It's like shortcut for not a number. So in this way that it says that D got some value, and parsing value, of course, even like when you say parse int, you will get the same value. It's none. So D got a value called none, and this none value is defined in JavaScript. So it's like this. So it's like a fixed word which has a type number, but it's not a number. It's saying that, okay, this variable is not a number. Be careful, don't use it. So in this way, I will know that D is not a number. So in the future, when you want to know if this number or this variable has a value none, like not a number or not, then you can check it. You can check this variable to see if it's really number or not. Because sometimes when you have 1,000 lines of code, it's really hard to track that number, especially if you are do a lot of parsing on that variable and also parsing from string to integer or from float to integer, etc. So sometimes you lose the control on that variable. So it's better way to see if this variable has a number, or is it type number, or just a string. Now it's easy, we can see it, like we can see that C is a string. Of course it's not a number, but of course, as I told you, when you lose the control over the variables, then you will know how to check if this C is a number or not. So in that way you can say here is none. So is none is a method for checking if this is a number or not. So when I say like is none for C, then it will check for me if C is a number or not. So D will have one of two values, true or false. Like when it's not a number, like a string, then D will have a true. So in our case, when I console log this, I will get a true. So let's try that. As you see, we have here a true, because it's really C is not a number, because, or it's not a string number, because it's apple. But when I put here 14, for example, and then I check if it's number or not, or it says is not a number, so in that way I will get false, because C is a number as a string, of course. So here is none is checking a string if it's number or not. So you can check by this command any variable if it's number or not. So it's exactly the same way as this. So is none, or for 14, like is not a number, then it's false because it's a number. But when I put, for example, any string and refresh, yes, true, it's not a number. D got that value.